What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
Technically, the flagship Peugeot looks very simple and conservative, which is not surprising. Radical bio design, fashionable in the late 90s, hides the same platform of the second half of the 80s, on which its predecessors 605 and Citroën XM are built. The platform, by the way, with good handling, which has not lost its relevance by the beginning of the new century. The body is large, all steel, although the hood is aluminum. Drive is front-wheel drive only. Motors are transversely arranged. Suspensions, in the front McPherson, and at the back an advanced multi-lever. In suspension only springs, no hydropneumatic, but there is a variant with adjustable shock absorbers. Motors, gasoline and diesel inline 4 and V6, about which more details below. Transmissions, mechanics or hydromechanical automatic transmission, with 4 or 6 steps. Timeline September 1999. The model was presented to the public at the Frankfurt Motor Show. Motors are gasoline EW12J42, 2L 158 horsepower and ES9J4S2, 9L 207 horsepower, as well as diesel DW12ATD42, 2L 133 horsepower. They can be equipped with either 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic transmission. On the gasoline 2.2, the diesel and the 2.9 petrol are ZF4 HP20. April 22, 2002. A 500,000 kilometer speed record is set for the 607 HDI. This is important for this car. The new generation was pitched as a very practical and reliable car. March 2004. A small update of the engine lineup. Gasoline 2.2 EW12J4 with 158 horsepower was replaced by more powerful EW12J4 with 163 horsepower and 207. HP 2.9 ES9J4S was replaced by 211 horsepower ES9IA. In addition, the V6 versions got rid of the old German automatic, putting a Japanese 6-speed Aisin TF80SC, and the version with gasoline. 2.2 received a 6-speed manual. November 2004. Restyling of the model is presented. Small cosmetic changes in appearance, slightly revised braking system and electronics. There was a new diesel V6 2.7-litre series DD17 TED4 with 204 horsepower. It is combined with an alternative 6-speed automatic transmission. September 2005. Diesel engine DW12 ATD 42.2-litre was replaced by DW10 BTD 42.0-litre with an output of 136 horsepower. It is equipped only with 6-speed automatic transmission. May 2006. Again there is a version with a turbo diesel 2.2-litre. This time the DW12 BTED4 engine has an output of 170 horsepower. It is also combined. Only with 6-speed automatic transmission. September 2010. Production is finished. Body. Exterior panels. Good preservation of the cars is not only due to relatively good maintenance, but also due to exceptionally good quality. Paintwork and good corrosion protection. Together with the use of galvanized metal for almost all body components. Galvanization, as usual, is one-sided, but its layer is quite thick. However, it is possible to find corrosion, small pockets on the windshield frame, small chips on the doors, on the rear panel, rust, on the edge of the arches. All this is an insignificant trifle. Something serious can be seen only at the junction of the bumper and front fender. Cars with operation in St. Petersburg and Moscow will almost certainly have perforations there, and in the worst case, holes. The fender suffers mainly due to the presence of the mounting bracket on its inner surface. It is located close to the outer surface, and a garbage can between them is formed, and the lower fender substamp collects moisture. Eventually the fender rots from the inside and galvanizing does not help. The putty in this area is almost certainly the traces of a cheap repair. Even worse is the situation with the sills. From the outside it may not be noticeable, because they rot again from inside, which is quite typical for many PSA models of the early 2000s. Inside the sill is damp, there is very little antica there, it is not tight, but ventilation is weak. As a result, rotting processes are very intensive in the sill cavity. From the outside it is noticeable mainly by the peeling outer layer of paint. Zinc oxidizes and it flies off. If you see an anti-gravel coating on the sills, it's probably bad. The aluminum hood suffers a lot due to the steel locking bracket. It literally comes out flakes of aluminum corrosion around it, but the lip and outer surface are holding up pretty well. The paint is peeling around dents, but you don't have to worry about through corrosion. Chips around the door handles are also a typical problem. Again, you don't have to worry about rot, but it looks bad. There is often corrosion under moldings and swollen lower seam of the door, but from the outside it is almost invisible, only when removing and disassembling. The trunk lid holds surprisingly well. The most problematic place is the number 0 in the model index. The thing is that inside the 0 there is a trunk opening button. A stylish design move after 20 years often results in corrosion of the button itself and the edge of its opening. Seams in the taillight recesses may rust, but the problem rarely comes out. Overall, for a 20-year-old car, the Peugeot 607 is generally well preserved. Problems are only visible up close. Yes, and many cars were maintained very well in the first years of life, which means that the cars were quality tinted if necessary. Sometimes anti-corroded in time. From below, from what has been said above, it is easy to guess that inspection from below will upset first of all by the condition of the sills. Holes and even missing pieces of sill or floor reinforcement in the area of jackstands are common. If mats stick out or foam is visible, the car is badly neglected. Repair is not that very expensive, but in the left sill is a thick wiring harness. It is bound to be wet, with corresponding consequences for the electrics. The sills themselves are available on the aftermarket, but it is not so easy to buy a factory booster, and often a piece of the underbody adjacent to the sill is damaged. In general, in case of damage there is a lot of welding, weakening of the structure and high costs. If the car is not in a rare configuration and the price is not extremely attractive, it is better to pass by the rot. Arches rot mainly on the outer edge. A small spot of corrosion in the rear part of the front arch due to a mud pocket behind the locker is almost always present, and there. Area near the shock absorber support has traces of surface corrosion due to damage during suspension repairs and load in this area. The shock absorber support point in the rear arch is also at risk. On the underbody of the car, the floors in the front part suffer mainly in the area of contact with the unfortunate sill reinforcement. There is a lot of surface corrosion in the area of the gas tank niche, over the rear suspension and in the rear overhang, but through. Corrosion occurs mainly along the trunk floor spars, and that is mainly in cars of the first years of production. Such damages do not represent a serious danger for the structure, and if desired, they can be mothballed. It is also worth paying attention to the front subframe. The part is not very expensive. For $60 to $100 you can still buy a used one in perfect condition, but on many cars it is already strongly weakened and has through holes. The latches and patches on it clearly indicate that it would be better to replace it. The car is heavy, and the mounting points for the levers and even the subframe mounts themselves can tear out. In general, the external condition of the body of 607 is better than in many of the same cars. But problems with thresholds are very common, and when everything is decently neglected, then body repair does not make financial sense. The market price is not so high. In general, the inspection should be carried out most thoroughly. Bodywork equipment, as it was already mentioned, the 607 is very simple structurally, which is reflected in a minimal number of various elements in the design of bumpers, overlays, and other things. But there is a lot of chrome, and it suffers a lot. The film of coating on decorative details peels off after 5 to 8 years of operation, turns yellow and is covered with rusty dots. Especially the elements of the radiator grille suffer. Headlights are large, with weak housing and are not particularly durable. They are scuffed on the outside and burn out on the inside. Polishing and armored film play an important role in the life of the 607 owner. Bumpers are again big, not very durable in cold season. And the traditional trouble of all PSA cars, dust covers flying off under bumper. The fastenings are weak, the overhang is long, the ground clearance is low. They don't stand much of a chance. In general, the price is also small, 3 elements, with codes 7013H4, 7013H5, and 7013H6, will cost $20 together. And without them, there will be more noise than usual, and the bumper shell will bend more, breaking the fasteners of grills and fog lights. Mirror mechanisms sour in the northern climate on a regular basis, so broken folding drives are not uncommon. Door stops start to click and stick after 5 years of operation. Lubrication does not always help. Trunk lid gas stops are a source of neck injuries. The lid is heavy, and the stops are often torn off in winter. Latches are usually sour, but most cars have as many as 2 batteries, and the central locking system rarely fails. Detail original price of non-original 2 body parts front headlight halogen 24,492 Valeo 13,789 Polestar. 22,600 front headlight xenon 63 331 out of stock windshield 53 558 KMK 5571 XYG 10 663 front fender 8039 46017 left right out of stock front bumper 19,772 out of stock hood 128,995 out of stock salon. With all the controversial appearance of the car, it is impossible to say something bad about the interior design. Unless, of course, you are not confused by the abundance of pseudo-wooden overlays, only steering wheel and automatic transmission. Covers are made of real wood, the rest is painted plastic. But tender leather of seats, soft plastic of panels, vinyl soft inserts in contact zones, pleasant structure of buttons and levers. Surface and general design will hardly leave you disappointed. Especially in the variant wooden steering wheel, black top, and beige bottom. Besides, it is spacious, very quiet, and comfortable. Ergonomics is a bit peculiar, but tolerable. Peugeot did not miss with the quality of materials. The interior can look fresh at the mileage of 300 plus. The poorest cars are expected to look the worst. Materials are worse to be cleaned and less durable. Thus, plastic steering wheel, unlike leather steering wheel, cannot be restitched, and fabric inserts in doors sag faster than leather ones. Typical breakdowns are quite a lot. Leafing of seat sleds is almost ubiquitous. At mileage of 150 plus, it is better just to change them for new ones. All used ones will be just as worn out. Dashboard display in the heat starts to darken. Good thing for VDO panel, they are on one Chinese site at the price of $20. And resoldering is not very difficult, if you trim the mounts in advance. The display of the center console also dies, but more often in frosts. Resoldering of the cable helps here. And the color display serves less than the black and yellow one. The steering wheel loop at mileage of 200 plus standardly requires repair, resoldering of the extreme coil or replacement with a new one. The driver's seat lumbar support is usually broken years ago. The stereo control paddle switch fails. Either the board needs soldering, or the contacts under the cap don't work. The left paddle lever traditionally has a broken cable inside. The multimedia system is not easy either. The original one is very old-fashioned and does not work reliably. It is almost impossible to install a modern 2DIN instead of it, and even 1DIN is difficult. You will have to make a transition frame. For the design of the panel, with Aquaprint, it is good that you can put a changer emulator or solder a line input. A separate nuance with the climate system. Sufficiently reliable heater fan, flaps and radiator are combined with constant failures of the air conditioning system, both corrosion of pipes and compressor breakdowns. Electrics traditionally for owners of cars from PSA will have to remember about presence of blocks BSM and BSI, and here the last one causes more problems. It is absolutely not protected from corrosion, and it sometimes floods. Unlocked keys, non-working windows and electric mirrors, malfunctioning lights, etc. are typical problems. Units can be different both by year and by configuration. At least there is base and lux. Replacement in general is not super complicated. If you choose the right unit, you can replace the memory chip, which can be easily done by any service, and you can do it yourself if you have a hairdryer or a good soldering iron and minimal skills. It is a pity that the units themselves are already quite expensive. Prices start from $100, it is difficult to find for less. The BSM unit under the hood is still afraid of water. It has a limited relay life and cold soldering happens. More about all this is told in materials about Peugeot 307, 300, and A407 by the way. Key fobs on the 607 are prescribed only those with a code on the board. Only knowledge of the pin block BSI is not enough. Don't forget to ask it from the last owner when buying the car. It radically eases a lot of problems. In addition to standard BSM and BSI problems, there are its own, characteristic only for 607. For example, luxury cars are equipped with 2 batteries, main and auxiliary, and for their correct operation there is an interfacing and regulation unit. It is located under the hood next to a large 50A fuse, and it is its malfunction that can easily kill one of the batteries. The control unit of 2.9 gasoline engines is easily flooded with oil. It goes from the valve of the phaser regulator on the wire, slowly but surely. Oil corrodes the insulation and damages the circuit boards, so there's no easy cleanup. Sensors of the level of washer fluid in the tank are very unfortunate. Good thing you can put a reed switch with the second generation Citroën C5 and forget about the problem. Of course, the motor braids of all engines suffer. And if on diesel engines there are few problems, usually the connector of fuel pressure regulator and oil pressure sensor dies, then on gasoline engines the braid of injectors and throttle dry up from high temperature and can even cause a fire. Radiator fans not only have a very low life of the motor itself, but also traditionally for PSA suffer from the failure of two blocks of thermistors, which can both burn out and suffer from soldering. There are a lot of small surprises and peculiarities here. Many owners will have to study as they master the car. For example, a trick with a bulb of illumination of a digit 2 on a tachometer. It is not necessary to put it, its absence is normal. And if still to put, the sector on a tachometer will be illuminated unaccustomed brightly. All wheel pressure sensors, they are standard, but for some reason they do not warn about the fact that the wheel is half flat. They will signal only when it is empty. Intermediate result if the variant you are examining has not rotted sills from inside and has not started destructive processes in the bottom area, then you can consider that half of the work in the choice of Peugeot 607 is done. The main thing is not to relax, to make high-quality anti-corrosion and spot weld if necessary, because the rot here arises due to purely constructive features, and therefore, it is almost inevitable if the car is not engaged. Electrics can be a nerve-wracking task, but, unlike some Range Rover P38, but, unlike any Range Rover P38, it's relatively inexpensive to solve problems in this area. It won't ruin you. In the next section we'll be looking at the chassis, engines, and gearboxes to draw some final conclusions. In conclusion, the Peugeot 607 presents a mixed bag for potential buyers. While the interior remains surprisingly well preserved, showcasing comfort and style, the issue of rotting sills from the inside is a significant concern that cannot be overlooked. This highlights the importance of thorough inspections when considering a used vehicle. If you're drawn to the Peugeot 607 for its interior quality, be sure to factor in the necessary repairs for the sills. Ultimately, it's a vehicle that requires careful consideration and attention to detail. Thank you for watching, and we hope this insight helps you in your automotive journey.